Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah rabbil alamin, wassalatu wassalamu ala syarafil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Alhamdulillah, all praise be to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who created us and gave us a good life for us to serve Him. We are now still discussing on our free life coach training program, which you can access through our YouTube as well as go to our website islamic-psychology.net and register and become a life coach free of charge. And we have various modules that we have uploaded our video and also uploaded our book Positive Islamic Psychology, a Transcendent Model to Achieve Peace, Happiness, Success. The Bahasa Indonesia version already is uploaded. The English version, inshallah, in a short while we will upload. So you can learn about motivation, coaching, mentoring, and now we have finished the motivation, coaching, mentoring module. We are going to the counseling module now, and I've given to you what is the model. Our model is CBT versus the secular model, that is CBT, Cognitive Behavior Therapy, vis-a-vis our model CBT, Positive Islamic Cognitive Behavior Therapy, and explain to you the nature of our human self in terms of our spiritual, emotional, mental and physical existence. And I explain to you how within the realm of this dunya we are living both in the spiritual realm and the physical realm, and the fusion of this life, this world, temporary, that we have been ordained to live on, to become the servant of Allah and His vicegerent of God, for us to fulfill the fullness of life. That means we have a balanced life, a good life, a happy life, inshallah, free from psychological challenges of anxiety, depression and all the other problems within the understanding or the meaning and purpose in life. Alright, so we have given you the idea, and this is our model, Positive Islamic Psychology model, the first model that integrate our existence in the physical world as well as the input from the realm of the spiritual. Alright, so we have given you the physical, the input into our total past learning history, our whole perception, and later on our behavior is being influenced by our physical environment, our social, intra and intersocial environment affects our perception, and we have this inner speech. What Beck says, automatic thoughts, but we can tune or redirect our inner speech to become very positive, and when you become that, you have ihsan, because in the level of Islamic living, we have Islam, Iman and Ihsan. At the highest level, because of your closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you have the joy of the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as a basis, a cornerstone of your life, then all other things will dissolve. Alright, so this inner speech will then be directed by the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that will then be redirected to the love for yourself, the love for your family, the love for your ummah, the love for humanity, the love for ecology, the love for everything that Allah has created to make this world good. Alright, so, and I've given to you how our influences are affected by the internal and external sources of influence, which is very detailed in our book. And today I'm going to give to you a greater depth of understanding of this CBT model, of how this model is very much more integrated, holistic and true vis-a-vis the CBT model. So that's why I say when we are confronted by those who practice cognitive behavior therapy, they will challenge us. So we must be able to face that challenge, in the sense that when we do counseling, we have an holistic, integrated methodology to solve all psychological challenges that face humanity in the 21st century and even before, because the epidemic of psychological problems now, especially anxiety, depression, self-harm, suicidal tendencies and so on, is something that never happened to humanity in the past. It is only now that we are facing this epidemic of psychological dilemma that all modern society is facing. So why is that reason? Because we have two models of existence. So for example, if we talk about, say, CBT, the CBT model, this is CBT model, they talk about cognitive thoughts. Alright, so your cognitive thoughts will trigger thoughts, emotion and feelings, TEF cycle. Alright, so your thoughts, emotions and feelings will then affect your action and behavior. So your T, E, F, and then it become action. So this is the TEF cycle. Alright, and that is the level in which they do not accept even the mind. That is, everything at this level is the brain. Everything are your neural network and your hormones, your neurotransmitters working in tandem with your brain, your neuron, giving you those thoughts, emotion and feelings, and nothing more than that. So everything is just in the physical realm. But because of the dilemma that they are facing now, the nature of the mind, the nature of consciousness, so another type of CBT that has grown is MBCT and DBT. With DBT, they're talking about mindfulness. MBCT also, they're talking about mindfulness. So when mindfulness, they recognize, and a lot of them, they refer back to the mindful practice of the Buddhism. So there's a lot of Buddhist input into this CBT, so it moves upward, where they accept that there is a intuitive thoughts that can affect your inner speech. Alright, so that's why by applying mindfulness, in a sense, in a way, they have a higher level of success in terms of the therapeutic values. So those who go to CBT vis-a-vis MBCT and DBT, it's found that the mindfulness approach, so the modified CBT with the mindfulness approach is far more better. The efficacy is higher, and this is now accepted as the default mode in terms of psychological intervention. Alright, but is that all? We Muslims accept this because the mind, our akal, our intuitive thoughts, affects our cognitive thoughts at the physical level, affects our emotion and feelings, and affects our behavior. But we have another level of input, which I have explained to you before, that we have the internal and external input. So the external input in terms of evil suggestions, and the internal input in terms of the angelic suggestions. So we have this whole thing now within the Islamic realm of the four realms of our existence, which I have given to you. Alright, these four realms of existence. Alright, our physical body, which I will explain later how it is within quantum physics. There is actually a wave. It is actually energy. The mind, the akal, the mind or the akal, the qalb, the heart or the emotion, and the ruh or the spirit. Okay, so if we go back to this situation, for us, the realm of the ruh, qalb and akal is within the intuitive heart and feelings. That's why the loci of control is, as Allah has revealed upon us in the Al-Quranul Kareem. There are many verses which I will explain to you later on, explaining how this loci of control is our heart. So assuming this is our heart, which is linked to our physical heart, so our physical heart is linked to our qalb, and this qalb then is linked to the mind, and which give the intuitive thoughts and the cognitive thoughts at the physical level that affects the feelings, emotions and action. So this, our model, if we look at our model, the PI-CBT model is an integrated holistic model that we can propound to the world, propose to the world, and they will begin to accept, because if you accept the realm of the consciousness, you must accept the realm of the spirituality, because you say it's consciousness. You talk about the mind that is different from the brain. So if there is mind beyond the brain, you are talking about spirituality, consciousness beyond physical existence. Where does this come from? It must come from a divine source. It must come from the realm of the absolute. So what is the realm of the absolute? The realm of the absolute is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Islam is very clear cut. Alright, so from the realm, I'll explain to you later how this whole understanding of positive Islamic cognitive behavior therapy vis-a-vis the four realms of existence is very important, because those are the fundamental idea and fundamental metaphysics that you must master as a counselor. That means you must understand, okay, if you can explain to them if they have a psychological problem, how are you going to tackle, how are you going to help? You're going to help from the perspective not only of the physical, the CBT aspect, but also from the perspective of how you modulate the akal, so that the intuitive thoughts become positive, and then you move forward to the intuitive heart, feelings and emotion. That is the FET cycle. The feelings, emotion and thoughts cycle at the highest level is feelings from the realm of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that's infused to us, given to us, the feelings from the angelic realm, the feelings from the barakah of whatever that we do, and our interaction with good people, human beings, because it affects us, because it's an exchange of positive vibes or energy that we receive as a barakah. So when we talk about the intuitive heart, we have at a higher level feelings. That means people say gut feelings, or something that you feel that is intuitive, that has not happened before. So this is quite miraculous, and if you begin to practice Pi CBT, you will see a lot of moment of manifestation of things that you think you want to do, but before you do, you already have that feelings that this is good or this is bad. This is where we call the inner insight that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you. Alright, so from that feelings, you develop an emotion at a higher level, and then you develop a higher thought, and this thought will then reflect in your cognitive thought, which is positive. Then it gives you a positive emotion at the TF cycle, thoughts, emotion, feelings at the physical level. Then your action and behavior become positive and good, and you overcome your challenges in life. So for example, we can apply this. If you have a feeling of desperation, for example, I mean it is extreme case, but you must be a qualified psychologist, clinical psychologist, to help, for example, who has somebody who wants to kill him or herself. That should not be done by a life coach. That should be done by a psychologist or a psychiatrist. But assuming that they want to do self-harm, a lower level say self-harm, okay, you can handle. They are already doing, taking a blade, cutting themselves, all right, threatening their parent, they're going to harm themselves, and then sometimes got to bring to the hospital because it's a small cut. That means they are showing tendency, suicidal tendency, but not to the extent of the full manifestation. So how are you going to act on that? You must act on that in the sense that you are giving them this idea of how at the realm of the ruh, qalb and akal of our closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that we do our understanding of our meaning and purpose in life as a Khalifa of Allah on this earth, and then slowly draw them in to understand the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where you manifest your love to them. So the parents must manifest that love to that child who is already exposing, because that is one way of that child trying to get attention. So basically the family must then have these inner feelings of love, intuitive feelings for the person who is facing that problem. And then when they work on, they will then develop, you give counseling on how to develop the feelings, emotion, thoughts at a higher level of love, of mercy, of compassion, of forgiveness. All right, and then how to modulate the inner speech so that that person don't think I'm bad, I'm no good, I just want to harm myself, and bringing them to the idea of Allah loves all His creature. You are a good person. You can then, inshallah, in your ibadah, in your prayer, in your salah, ask Allah for help and so on. So there are many approaches which I have given in the book in terms of the technique. You can open the chapter 7, and then we have forms of how to actually do the various exercises at the FET cycle. Alright, so when we understand this, the realm of Pi CBT is from the heart right down to the physical. This is positive Islamic cognitive behavior therapy, this is CBT, this is DBT and MBCT. So you can understand that they're moving upward towards us. So don't be afraid to propound our idealism and our idea, because this is the truth. Allah tells us in the Quran, وَقُلْ جَالْحَقُّ وَزَحَقَ الْبَاطِلِ إِنَّ الْبَاطِلَ كَانَ زَهُوقًا, that the truth will be manifested and falsehood will be perished. And surely falsehood cannot withstand against truth. So this is the truth that Allah has given us in terms of our understanding of our existence, from the realm in which we are created to the realm that we are going to leave this world and go beyond. But within the realm of our existence, we have to practice SEMP hygiene, which I given you in the previous video, the spiritual, emotional, mental and physical hygiene, taking care of ourselves, not only our physical self, taking care of our thoughts, taking care of our emotions and feelings at a higher level, taking thoughts of our connection with the spiritual realm, with Allah has given us, receiving the tawfiq hidayah from Allah, receiving the inspiration from the angelic realm, and avoiding the realm of the shaitan and iblis by avoiding passion, evil deeds and so on. So a lot of this has to be can be related with a lot of Islamic teachings. You can learn from great scholars like Sheikh Hamza Yusuf Hansen or Abdul Hakam Murad and many of the other scholars, which can give you good guidance. Go to their YouTube and then you can understand how you can link this understanding, because they also explain this, especially in terms of Islamic theology and the practice of Islam, of holistic Islam. But I'm explaining this from the perspective of cognitive behavior therapy and our model, positive Islamic cognitive behavior therapy, which we hope more research will be done by you all who have grounding in Islamic theology and Islamic psychology or psychiatry, and then maybe you can elucidate this in a far higher level, not only from the perspective of Islamic metaphysics, but also from the perspective of science, as we develop humanity that progresses about with the understanding of the neurological sciences and the science of the nature of the self. Inshallah, we would then be able to propound this idea and bring about a better world for ourselves, our children, and all humanity and all good creatures on this earth. All is realizing that we are the servant of Allah, His Caliph on this earth, striving to make ourselves good, helping others to be good, and making the world good, inshallah.